Hi everyone, welcome to Life Change TV. I'm Zoe B, and today I have with me Hally Rhiannon Nammu. Hally is a holistic transpersonal therapist, a sexual therapist, and a spiritual healer. And today she's going to be sharing with us her incredible story that includes how she overcame a nervous breakdown and also how she was able to put a very difficult past behind her. So welcome, Hally. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So let's start off by just hearing a little bit about your professional background and what you're doing now, and then we'll kind of get stuck into your story after that.
I've got three companies, Creative Balance Therapy, Creative Balance Healing, and Spiritually Sexually You. Going back about 8 years, I started my coaching journey, and from there it's just evolved so much more into holistic therapies, into holistic counselling, NLP, timeline therapy, past life healing. I've also gone into the paranormal possessions, entities, which are actually closely aligned to mental illness. And it's just from the moment that I started this journey, it's gone tenfold into this incredible, such diverse area, and of course into sexual energy, and also sexual therapy, which is a deeper aspect of transpersonal therapy. So it's helping people not just with day-to-day issues, which of course are very important, but it's also helping them overcome trauma, abuse, depression, anxiety, some of those really hardcore things that a lot of other therapists I've heard, I've been told, put to the side and go, oh, it's all too hard. These are the ones that I go, I can help you. And I've helped thousands of people with some very in-depth situations, and I love hearing how their life turns around and how much they've now embraced who they are. So my journey's been very diverse, and I'm very much one of those type of people that walks the talk. It was a coaching term that for anyone that ever went to TCI, it was something that the CEO always went on about, was walking the talk, and it was through facing my own demons, facing my own challenges, and facing my own stuff as it was, that I can now help people with such really difficult situations.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like incredible work that you're doing. And I can imagine there's lots of challenges because it's obviously, things that people don't necessarily want to deal with. And are there any kind of key patterns that you see emerging when you work with people on such deep work as that?
The irony is, it's not that everyone's different, it's how they deal with situations is different. So the four elements, so I look at changing behaviour, not putting people in boxes, which is how I work differently. So things like depression, the whole reason depression's been created is usually for the same reason. Depression comes around as a survival technique. Anxiety is usually a mechanism after anger and sadness. It's the way that the emotions react with a person are much the same with each person, but it's how they use it based on who they are, how they've been programmed in terms of how they grew up, what the environment's like. That's where it gets really interesting. But the actual basics of it is very similar. It's all the I'm not good enough, I want to fit in, I want to be loved, and then it just becomes layered with so much complexities.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's that kind of common theme that underlies everything, sort of beneath all of the events and circumstances that have happened to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And each person treats trauma differently. However, trauma itself, because it's an individual thing, the behaviour still is the same. So it doesn't take the extremity away. For some person, trauma might be one thing, where another person will think, oh, that's life. Yeah. Their trauma is unique to themselves. However, the behaviour that comes, or the belief systems that are created, it's very similar.
Yeah, wow. So take us back 10 years ago. What happened to you? That was obviously quite a monumental, life-changing moment for you. Tell us about that time.
Going back then, I was working in the corporate world, working in finance as a financial controller. I was doing human resources. I was one of those people that would go in and fix things. I was a troubleshooter, I guess, was the best way. And I was very good at finance. However, it wasn't me. Given what I do today, it's very clear it wasn't me. And with everything that happened personally, finding out that I was adopted, finding out what my childhood was really about, then coming into understanding that I actually suffered depression since a young age. And back then, going back 20 years, depression was classified, you're going through a hormone shift, get over it, you just being a female. So depression wasn't classified as anything serious, let alone an illness, and I suffered it very dramatically. Then, of course, when you grow up with a traumatic childhood, then you create behavioural patterns which reflect what you think you need, such as bad sexual partners, bad relationships, and I found myself in an abusive relationship, found myself in a job I hated, and I was on a downward spiral, and until it came crashing down to there was nothing. I couldn't get out of bed, but I had to make money, and I didn't want to live anymore. I had lined up all my bottles of things that I was going to take, and I thought, well, do I leave a note? Do I not leave a note? It should take about a week before my stench comes through. These ridiculous thoughts of how serious I was, that I've had enough, that this pain, this agony that I'm feeling, I can't do it anymore. There was just no point, and it was through the kindness of a stranger on the other side of Australia. She said, you know what, pack your bags, come and live with me, don't worry, I'll pay for everything. And I didn't even know this person. So I'm thinking, oh my God, if there's one person in the world that cares about who I am, doesn't even know who I am, then there's some hope. There's that element of it's not for nothing. And that simple kindness that she shared was the exact turning point of that's what brought back that hope, that element of, you know what, my world might be crashing, but there's still something left. There's still good in this world. There's still something I can do. And it was after that I started picking up the pieces. And the thing is with depression, with nervous breakdowns, is it's not as easy as, oh, I have a nervous breakdown, oh, I'll get out of bed and now I'll do something about it. It's so layered and it's so fixed into who you are that it's very hard. There's times where you take a step forward, take 10 steps back. The secret of it is just keep going. Just when you think you can't do it anymore, just take one more step, just in case. And the funny part is with all of this is the areas where you actually get help is where you don't expect it. I tried all the therapists, the psychologists, the counsellors, and they were useless. I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but they didn't help. They were judgmental. They weren't interested. And because I was working and I had debts and I had no money, they did, so what? I don't want to see you. You can't pay the bill. See you later. And I didn't fit into the categories of getting any government support. So I was sitting right in the middle with no money, no support, no family, no friends, nothing. And how the hell do I get through this? And that's where I started that sort of, well, who the hell am I? It's who makes up me? I don't know who I am. I was playing this role of keeping the adoptive family happy, and they weren't very friendly. Let's just say they were kind of bullies in their own right. And I was going through this who the hell am I journey of, so I went and studied everything from yoga to meditation to paganism to martial arts to everything I could think of in getting those little pieces of what made me who I am. And slowly I rebuilt it. And then slowly it's like, well, I'll try this. Okay, that didn't work, I'll try this. And sometimes it's not about completing something, it's about giving it a go, because no matter what you do, everything you do will have an impact, or it will give you some benefit. Mm-hmm. So most of these courses I did finish. However, some of them, if I didn't stress about it. But going back prior to that, I would be completely beside myself if I didn't complete something. And I thought, no, this is not about completing a qualification. This is about me. This is about what I need in order to get from today through to tomorrow. And I met some incredible people. I learnt Reiki. I learnt all these incredible things. And today, it's all these things that I went through, everything that I thought I couldn't get through, I use today. In the day-to-day, every single thing I've learnt, even from my financial background, even from back in the days when I was a secretary, I use every single thing I've learnt in what I do today. And I think that's what makes me who I am, is that no matter what you learn, you can use it all. Even in those moments where you're going, well, I don't see how filing's going to help. It can help.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible story. I don't know where to start. I love what you're saying there, in that, I think we do often, like you say, we judge our decision making, and it's a really refreshing to hear that for you, every decision that you've made has helped you in some way, because I think often that can paralyze us, in that we think we're fearful of making this wrong turn, and there aren't really any wrong turns. From what you've said, it's each thing that you do will help you in some way. I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take me back to, I'm just so intrigued. I'm still way back at the lady who helped you across the other side of the world. That's just such a phenomenal story, and it's just so beautiful. Like, how did you meet this woman? What happened? I need to find out more about this.
Well, it was, we're going back a while, so internet was still quite new, and they didn't have Facebook or Twitter back then. They had the community groups,
Yeah.
the old version of chat groups. And I'd gotten onto a site for depression, and I was talking about what I was going through on this site. And it was probably the thing that got me through, and the thing that helped me the most out of everything was having other people understand what I was experiencing and what I was going through, and that I wasn't alone and I wasn't crazy, that what I felt was very real, and that agony you feel when you're coming towards that light of should I or should I not take my life is extremely intense, and nothing dissipates it. So to have this lady who had her own family, her own struggles, her own what she'd gone through, her own form of abuse and depression, to relate to me and go, you know what, I don't have much, but whatever I have, you can have. And it was just in a community group, and to this day I can't remember what her name was. And I think it's not so much who she was, but the gift that she gave me, in that she allowed me to take back or get back hope, because I had none. It was gone. And to me, I think that's a pivotal part of life, is providing there's that tiny, tiny bit of hope, you can achieve anything. And it's also making sure that no matter how hard it is, no matter what you're going through, be it abuse, be it trauma, be it simply getting from the day to day, is have that tiny, tiny bit of hope, if not get it from somewhere. Because that was what's going to get you from A to B. And you don't know where you're going to end up, but it's got to be better than where you are here. And that's worth the journey.
Yeah, that's really incredible that you had that moment, and that there was someone who was kind enough to reach out to you. And I guess that's sort of how you're able to then work with other people who've gone through similar things, and you've got the experience, you've walked the talk, like you say. Yeah, it's just incredible. So because that was 10 years ago, and then so 5 years on from that, you had another set of challenges. Is that right?
That was the time where the adoption became real,
right.
And to wake up and it's one thing to know that you're not part of a family, but to wake up and have actual physical proofs that the people you grew up with aren't your family, and there's no record of who you are, your birth date's not right, and you're sitting there going, well, who the hell am I? In our society, we identify family as such a pivotal part to our identity that when you take away, what do you become? In one respect, I was over the moon because I'm thinking, thank God I'm not related to these people. And on the other aspect, it opened this whole can of worms of, well, who does that make me? And given when I was born, a lot of the documents were fabricated. There was a lot of kidnapping happening around that time. So it was through some channeling work that I've actually been able to work out, okay, who were my parents? I don't know my actual original name, and I ended up changing my name to what it is today. Because my actual other name was a fabrication, and I didn't like it. It was extremely long, and if anyone ever knew it, they'll understand. It was horrible. It was horrifying. It was horrible. It wasn't me. It wasn't who I was. So hence, I changed my name, and I changed it to a lot of around that time is when I started doing a lot of channeling work, started doing a lot of spiritual work. And I found out about my childhood, about how I grew up, that some of it encompassed sexual abuse, some of it encompassed some really horrific things that I still do have blocks throughout my childhood, but I know what's in those blocks. I don't want to know the detail, because I know that there'll be traumas within themselves of why I was taken, why my parents are no longer alive. And it had a real impact on who you are in your own identity, and then it comes into your own sexual identity of where do you sit. As a practitioner, it's very black and white. I'm a therapist, I help someone, very easy. But as a person, as a woman, what does that make me? And then you've got everything around you from your friends and the partner that I had, and it's bringing them along for the journey. But when you don't have the answers yourself, it can become really, really messy. And I found the best way to overcome it or to deal with it and get some clarity was to write. I ended up publishing several books, and it's only now that I'm finally writing about what happened back then, where I'm writing about what happened when I was a child. The bits that whenever I tell someone, it sounds so out there, but in your heart, in my heart, in who I am, I know it to be 100% correct. It's just I don't have any physical proof. It's all proof, but not physical.
Wow. And so, because I see this a lot with people who I work with as a coach, in that people don't really spend the time to work out who they are. And like obviously this is something that you kind of experience through all of your the adoption and all of those aspects of your life. But how well do you think people really know who they are? Like when you work with people, and what role does identity play? It sounds like it's a really key part of the puzzle.
I think they're so concerned about playing the roles they've created,
Yeah.
they forget to connect to who they actually are. And the irony is, when you connect to who you actually are, it's so much easier. There's no need to lie, and the lies and the deceit all starts with yourself to yourself. And this role playing, it's all about avoidance and denial of yourself because they're scared of what the truth holds. And yet the irony is, the truth is beautiful. To be in your own natural self, there's nothing ugly. There's nothing that to be actually scared of. But it is an innate power that we're in a society where we need to fear our own power. And so we try and get power from other people by making other people happy or trying to suppress how we truly feel. And identity it's a journey in itself, and each person is where they need to be. There's no right and there's no wrong. But the more that you connect to who you are, how you see and know yourself to be, that essence or that core of who you are based on your core values and based on when all the programming is removed, who you are in your soul, I've yet to find one person that's not completely innately beautiful when they're in that state. And it's when they realise this, that's the beautiful part, and I'm sure you can experience it with your clients, is when the penny drops and the light goes on, and they go, oh, that's right, I'm actually a good person.
And they light up. It's like,
exactly. And it's just more of that. And people are afraid of that because they're taught to fear power. And power doesn't mean ego. Power can simply mean beautiful, pure abundance and unconditional love.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. There's nothing more magnetic than someone who is 100% authentic, and people are drawn to those people, right? You can see it, like especially even in the public eye, you can see like the really authentic people who just own who they are, like no masks. There's something really fascinating about them. It's like it's because we can sense that there are no masks.
Yeah, and everyone wants all this, and it's not that hard to get. Simply be open to the opportunity. It's that simple. But the irony is we all try to go the hard way, the long way around, because if it's easy, then it's wrong. Yeah. If it's easy, it can't be right. It's like, no. Natural state of coming to yourself is easy because it's supposed to be. Yeah. Hard is good.
And how much do you find, because I often find that one of the key issues is they'll put on these masks because someone's told them that they should be this way or they should be that way. And so there's all these shoulds that kind of create this persona that isn't them. Have you found that as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's within the family unit itself, it's the roles that they play. And it's funny if you really look at it, they actually change age. Like if they're talking about parents, and they'll revert back to a teenager. If they talk about a partner, they'll revert back to the moment that they met the partner, or they can even future pace the persona to the point of the disposition, the facial expressions. It's so ingrained into playing a role rather than just being who they are in that moment that I think that in itself creates a disconnect.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in hearing you have been through so much, and like how did you kind of pull yourself out of that? And I know that the lady who helped you, that was a key part of this, but I'm sure there's lots of people who have huge problems and huge challenges that they face, and it's the easiest thing is to go, why me, and everyone else has it so easy, why should I have to deal with all of this? And how do you change those kind of thoughts? Like what worked for you, and what do you see works with your clients?
The first part is wanting to change. There's a lot of people that make a lot of noise, but they don't want to change. It's what I call the horse to water scenario. Is you can take a horse into the water. If they don't want to drink, no matter how hard you try, they can't drink. There's a lot of people that, and you'll notice them, they're really loud. They'll say, I want. Mm-hmm. The other version is the honest, perfect people that I'm going to do this and they never do. They're the ones that I can't help. But the other ones, it's simply wanting. It's just, I want more. I want this to be better. I want to be better. I want something to change. that is all that is needed, is that simple opening, that simple going, okay, I'm open to whatever the world throws at me. Yeah, and it's then from there taking that tiny, tiny step. Change doesn't need to be big to be significant. Just being open to, okay, I'm going to step outside today and see what the weather's like. That in itself can then mean that you meet someone else, you run into some animals, you might then meet Mr. Right.
Yeah.
It's just like walking outside the door. It is little tiny changes, and I think in anything traumatic, and many of us go through so much trauma and we don't even realize how traumatic it truly is until years later when we're suffering from this trauma that we haven't overcome, is simply keep going. If one thing doesn't work, it's not a reflection on you, it just doesn't mean it's right for you right now. That's what I found is some therapies didn't work for me, which is where I ended up in coaching, and coaching is what worked for me. That's I got my greatest change is because it worked with how I thought and felt. For others, it may not work. It's just try everything. It's being open to and not allowing others to tell you how you should feel. I think that's a really big one, is where a lot of, in this industry, a lot of people tell other clients, this is how you should be feeling, this is what you're supposed to be going through. And trauma is different for everyone. So if you're going through a breakdown, some people take a few months to get over it, some take a few years. There's no right and wrong way. And if you're in a society where they're saying, well, you should be over it now and you should be back to life, and you can't get out of bed, then you go, well, what's wrong with me? And it just compounds how you're actually feeling. I think it's important to just get help from anywhere, whether it's a friend, whether it's a trainer, whether it's a therapist, whether it's just simply going down the street and grabbing a coffee from a pure stranger. It doesn't matter what it is as long as you keep moving. It's those little things. And the other part is to forgive and give yourself permission. Is that if you do feel like being in bed, if you do feel like I can't get through this day, is to be kind to yourself. Go, you know what, given what I've gone through, take the day off. Just relax and give yourself permission to sit where you need to sit. Then the next day go, okay, now I'm ready to take a little bit and pick up the phone and call someone. Even if it's directory assistance. It's the irony is it's just getting that connection to you matter, you're not invisible, and you're not alone. That there's others in the world that will care about you if you give them the chance.
Yeah, that's really great advice. So what if there was like one single piece of advice like that you would give to people who are going through a really tough time, they've got a huge challenge that they're facing right now and they just really don't want to deal with it, what's the one thing that you think they could maybe do today? Is it what you've just said? Is it that they just do anything? Is it that they're kind to themselves? What do you think the number one thing they could do?
I think it's that mindset of never ever give up, whether in business or personal. It's never give up. Being kind to yourself, acknowledging yourself and giving yourself permission is key also, but I think it's that I'm not going to give up no matter what. That maintains that tiny bit of hope, and hope is such one of those beautiful emotions that we don't think much about. However, it is crucial to existence. You remove hope from any situation and there's nothing left. As long as you never give up and have that tiny bit of hope of maybe it can be better, maybe I can be happy, maybe this is not going to be forever. That will then allow the person to get to the next day or pick up the phone. Just never ever give up. The rest, people are there to help. There's people like me that can help you go from one to the next thing. That's my dog. It's just never give up, and that's something I always say. Hey, there's my dog again.
I think he agrees with you. He's like, yeah, never give up.
I never give up either. The problem is there's dogs outside, and so she then barks because there's dogs outside.
Yeah.
The point of connection. Even animals know how important it is to connect.
That's true. That's wonderful advice. I completely agree with you. And, there's so many iconic people over the years that have said that. Winston Churchill, I know that was one of his key quotes, never, ever, ever give up. And I think it's so true. We just got to keep going. And no matter what it is, no matter what you try something new, just do something small each day, then that will eventually, get you somewhere. And so I think it's great advice. And I love what you're saying about hope as well. I think that's such a beautiful thought to leave with people, that, just find one small thing that will give you hope and focus on that. I think that's really, really wonderful advice.
Because life can be tough, but it doesn't mean it can't be beautiful as well.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, if you've gone through something bad, in order for karma to balance, it means something twice as good has to come. And I want to stick around for that.
That's true. And there's often a lot of beauty in those dark times, So even though we go through them, like for you in your case, it sounds like you've obviously used everything that happened to you to help others, and that's such a beautiful gift in itself, and it makes it all worthwhile, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what I look at it is, it's not allowing to what's happened to define me, but allow that to be a tool that I can use.
Yeah.
I don't want to be defined of, hey, the person that was depressed or the person that wanted to commit suicide. I want to be the person that went through a tough time, but now I'm going to help someone else make sure that they don't have to suffer. That if there's something I've learned or something I've done that can prevent someone else from experiencing what I did, then it's worth it. Then it's not in vain.
Yeah, so you can use it to empower you instead of hold you back. I love that final thought. That's great. So how can people work with you, Hally, if they're facing challenges? I mean, obviously, you really do walk the talk, and you've been through all of these things yourself, and, you've got so much great advice. How can they get in touch with you if they wanted to do some work with you?
So I have 3 websites, creativebalanceTherapy.com, which is all about therapy, creativebalancehealing.com, which is all the spiritual, energetic, paranormal, metaphysical, and then there's spirituallysexuallyyou.com, which is about sexual therapy and sexual energy. Otherwise, on my mobile, I think, just in case this is international, it's 61488880077. Yes, it's a good number, and yes, I bought it.
Wonderful. So I highly recommend that everyone gets in touch with Hally, because clearly she knows exactly what she's talking about. And I think, you've obviously got such a big heart as well to work with, such challenging situations. So I really commend you for everything that you're doing and everything that you're bringing into the world. It's really great. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today and sharing your incredible story, Hally. I really hope that helps some people today with whatever they're going through, and I'm sure it will. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Oh, great. And thank you everyone for watching today. This has been Life Change TV, and stay tuned for more personal transformation stories over the next coming weeks. I'm Zoe B, and I'll catch you next time.